really big problem with the election of Donald Trump is that he's an elitist. And one of the big problems in the country right now is the increasing economic inequality, as well as the inequality of different citizens in relationship to the environment and to economic stability. In other words, as the poor get poorer and the rich get richer, things will become more and more unstable. This happened during the last Great Depression, when things got really bad for working people and the poor, and social organizations formed, like what are beginning to happen now in this country, to counteract what the corporate multinationals are doing and the elites who run these companies. Very quickly, the world is becoming a corporate multinational corporation. In other words, the corporations are way ahead of the nations and nation states because they haven't joined the global community, whereas the corporations have done that. And they feel empowered to pretty much be able to do whatever they want to do without feeling any responsibility for what their actions may do to the environment and to other people. The people who are speaking out the most about this problem, remarkably, are indigenous species in other countries, indigenous people in other countries, who are finding ways to organize and stand up to the destruction of their environment. That's kind of like what's happening in North Dakota right now. In other words, the Native Americans, have rights, and they're standing up to this big corporate oil company that wants to put a pipeline in, which endangers the water for all of us in the Midwest. So, but the bigger problem I see happening is that when 50 people or less control over half the wealth of the world, we have a real serious problem, okay? And it basically boils down to these elites believing that their money will protect them no matter how bad a situation they create. In other words, they feel very empowered and very entitled to this wealth because they grow up very differently than most working class and poor people or even academics. So for me, I think a lot of the problems that we're having have to address this issue. A lot of the other issues are real emotional ones, like the Black Lives Matter and other racial issues, as well as equal pay for equal work. In other words, when women don't get paid the same as men in the same position, that's another good example of income inequality. And if we don't begin to address this growing inequality between the uber rich and the poor and working class, we're going to have real serious problems. Now, the other problems, especially global warming or climate change, are hugely important. But the reason that we're continuing to take the path we are is because the corporations want to keep burning fossil fuels because they make a ton of money off of it. And until that changes, and until we address that issue, I don't think much is going to change. And the thing that the media does, and the corporate message, and the people who manufacture consent in the world right now are doing, is ignoring the issue pretty much. And that's a recipe for disaster. So going forward with the different things that I'm going to be doing with the rest of my life, I'm going to start, addressing more and more this inequality that exists between people. One of the wonderful things my mother said the other day, who's now 90, is that we just don't seem to be able to really take care of each other very well, or the planet, and share things the way we need to. A certain group of people feel like they're entitled to everything. And that's not the way to survive on a beautiful planet like this.